everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mochi Doki Mochi. This is episode 13, and for today I actually have another mixed bag of manga. However, I also watched an anime, or at least I watched one episode of an anime, so I'll be talking about that as well. But yeah, let's just, as always, get straight to it. So just like episode 12, I wanted to start off again with some manga that I read from Hata, and this one was actually the one that encouraged me to go and check out what else Hata had to offer, and it's called Subaru to Suu-san, and it's not really a complicated plot, but I had some difficulties when it came to kind of like thinking up how to talk about this manga. But yeah, I figured it would just be best to start at the beginning. So the manga opens with this little boy called Subaru waking up a young woman by the name of Mio. She has to get ready for her work at the flower shop, and as she's preparing for her work, Subaru proposes for the both of them to take out the trash. However, for some reason, Mio seems very concerned with the two of them being seen together, but Subaru instantly reassures her that they'll just do the same thing they always do. And so when they're throwing out the trash, they get spotted by their landlady, and so Subaru is introduced to her as Mio's little brother, who is just there to stay for some time. And so after this, Mio heads off to her work and Subaru returns back to their apartment, where he starts smoking a cigarette, which, is kind of weird for someone who looks like a 10-year-old. In any case, he starts doing all types of chores around the house, and when he takes a break, he's drinking some coffee and reading some articles or a book, and you kind of get the idea that Subaru is not your run-of-the-mill kid. But yeah, when it's time for him to go outside to do some grocery shopping for dinner, he changes from his clearly oversized clothes to kids' clothes, essentially. But yeah, after that he does the groceries and he cooks dinner, and Mio comes back home, they eat together, and she falls asleep. And that is when Subaru tells her that someday, surely, he'll return. And this is the moment where they zoom in on this picture that is on a cupboard, and we find that this is a picture of Subaru as an actual adult standing next to Mio. And so this is basically how the premise gets set. We find out that Subaru at some point in his life actually was an adult, but for some reason his body has now reverted back to that of a child. And so the manga essentially follows the two of them as they try to make the best out of this situation and also try to find a solution for this. Right now, I've only read the first volume, but I can already tell you that this is such a good manga and absolutely gut-wrenching. In the first couple of chapters, we really get to see how Subaru and Mio's lives have been greatly affected by the predicament they find themselves in. For instance, because Subaru looks like a child now, he can't get a job. And additionally, he can't even go outside during school hours because otherwise he'll be spotted by people who will then eventually report him to the authorities for skipping school. And so he ends up having to rely on Mio in order to support them both financially. What's more is that they've stopped being intimate, and that's because naturally Subaru feels extremely uncomfortable being in this child body, so much so that he doesn't even want to sleep in the same bed as Mio. And so you start to slowly understand what the two of them have kind of lost because of this situation. And of course that's really sad, but it didn't really hit me that hard until I was really close to the end of the volume. In the last chapter, we get to see Mio and Subaru getting on a train in order to get to someplace. And moments of their travel are interchanged with flashbacks from exactly 1 year ago when it was Mio's birthday and Subaru still looked like an adult. And so we get to see how good things were between the two of them. We see Mio entering the upscale restaurant in which Subaru works, and after having made her a dish, they walk back home whilst talking about the plans that they have for the future. It's during this walk that they stop at a bridge because Subaru wants to give Mio her birthday gift. At that time, however, they see a strange mist appear in the distance. And in the present day, they're heading exactly to that same bridge. And also this time, this strange mist appears. And as they're standing on that bridge face to face, both in the past and present, they kiss. And this is when they become completely enveloped in the mist. And as it slowly starts to clear, we see that Subaru, in both cases, has become younger. And that is how the first volume closes out. Wow. Like, just absolutely wow. Just like I said, this was such a good first volume. I mean, the structure of the story, the way everything was eventually revealed, was done so well. I especially loved how their attempt to reverse what happened to Subaru was intertwined with the flashback of how this mess all started in the first place. Like finding out what exactly happened to Subaru, and also at the same time seeing how they failed to get him back to normal and things got even worse, were just two huge blows to the gut. This was definitely one of the things that, aside from the initial reveal of their situation, really caught me off guard. That ending was a really strange moment for myself because I was surprised at how invested I found myself to be in these two characters. Because like I said before, at the start of the manga, you're only shown how things are currently. And so it's like, yeah, things are kind of freaked up, but I guess, it is what it is. But then, all of a sudden, towards the end, the manga just kind of goes like, look at them! Look at everything they had and they've lost everything. And so, all of a sudden, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. This is so sad. And that's why for me, it was only really towards the end that I finally came to understand the magnitude of what happened to them and how it affected their lives. And so the other day, I went back to this manga to kind of refresh my mind, and I just couldn't get through it without my eyes starting to sting. I was just looking at the panels and I was like, no, man! Just feeling so bad about what they're experiencing. And I just love that about manga. I've said it so many times, but I just love it when I'm so deeply invested in the story that it has me like screaming at the screen. But yeah, anyways, there are 6 volumes in total, and I'm definitely planning on reading everything because this is just, I just need to know what's going to happen. Are they gonna be okay? Like, there are just so many things right now I need an answer for. But yeah, this manga was just so good, and I think you can now understand why I started looking into harder. In any case, last week I tried looking to see if there was anything Takahashi has been working on now, since it's been a couple of months since Subaru to Suu-san ended. But I believe that she's only published a one-shot in a short story collection from Hata called Madowaseru Onna-tachi, which I actually got myself a couple of weeks ago. The title translates to Deceiving Women, but it also has the English title of Dazed and Confused. The synopsis basically says that it features stories about fascinating women, and I found that these were also mostly drawn by the female mangaka from Hata. Now, so far, I've only read the first story, which happened to be the one made by Takahashi. It's about a boy named Yasuda who, whilst eating ice cream in the summer, starts staring at a very cute girl he sees passing by. However, when she notices him staring, she instantly runs up to him and begs him him not to tell anyone about this, otherwise she'll be forced to drop out of school. And after this encounter, she just quickly walks away. The only thing is that Yasuda has no idea who this person is. And so when he's at school, he starts looking for the girl, but it seems like there's no one there who even remotely looks like her. And that's when he realizes that it's his class representative, Mizuda, who was presenting as a girl. And that's where the story ends. I personally could barely form an opinion about this manga. It's just really short and felt more like the beginning of a story rather than anything else. I think the best way to describe this manga is just weak, I guess. After having read this one, I did skim through the rest of the collection to try and get a vibe from it. And the other stories seem to be quite a bit longer, as well as a bit more sinister. Some even have gore, so I don't really think that first story was really representative of the entire collection, which also kind of has me puzzled as to why they chose that story specifically to open the manga with. But yeah, I'm planning on finishing this collection in a couple of days, so hopefully I'll be able to discuss it in the next episode or the one after that. But yeah, I don't know if Takahashi is already working on something, but I did, however, get one of her older pieces from about 9 years ago. This one is called Akai mi Hajiketa, and it's a 2-volume manga that is a collection of romance stories. Now then, the last manga from Hata I want to talk about today is called Usuzumi no Hate. This is the debut manga series of Iwamune Haruo, which started back in March of 2022. So the story is set far in the future in a world where about 50 years ago, majority of humankind went extinct. This huge loss of life was due to the Danzaisha, which translates to those who condemn. These were aliens that came to Earth, after which they started spreading a poisonous gas all across the world. This gas was known to cause an illness known as the crystal disease in anyone who would inhale it. This disease was also highly contagious, causing crystals to form on one's body, followed by a rather quick death. In the manga, we follow a girl by the name of Ushimitsu Saya. Rather quickly, we find out that Ushimitsu is quite special. She's resistant to the crystal disease and also has regenerative abilities. And so she has the mission of clearing out areas that contain bodies that have been affected by the crystal disease in order to make them inhabitable for humans again. And so the story focuses on Ushimitsu and her pet friend discovering the remnants of this global disaster, trying to find any trace of human life. I've read all chapters from this manga up until November, which is about a little more than an entire volume, and I have loved every single moment of it. This manga is just so incredibly compelling, both story-wise and visually. There were so many panels that I just had to take some extra time to look at and really take in and appreciate the level of detail. And that's one of the ways in which this manga really sucked me in. The ruins through which Ushimitsu travels tell so much about what transpired, in particular the magnitude of terror these terrestrial beings dispersed. And it's shown not only in terms of the ruined buildings, but also by the corpses of the aliens that are strewn all across the place. And just the sheer idea of seeing such large and terrifying bodies laying there is already enough to send shivers down my spine. But aside from all these grand views, there are also many intimate moments in the manga. For instance, the first time we see Ushimitsu doing her cleaning job, we see her enter this tiny apartment in which she finds a couple that succumbed to the crystal disease. The woman is posing in a chair and the man is seated in front of a painting easel, seemingly trying to catch a last image of his lover before they both passed away. And I think that these were the type of moments that I enjoyed the most about this manga. The story is set up in a way that every couple of chapters, Ushimitsu tries clearing up a new place. And this is how she meets survivors, who are mostly non-human entities such as robots. For instance, there's one time that she gets a signal of the crystal disease being present in an abandoned cinema. And there she meets a man who, when the world started to crumble, transferred his consciousness to a decrepit robot so that he could still watch watch movies after he himself succumbed to the crystal disease. In another encounter, Ujimitsu enters this huge mansion where she finds a robot maid who is still trying to find a cure for her deceased master. And it was these type of encounters that made reading the manga very exciting to me. They felt so sincerely written that I sometimes couldn't help but feel moved by these little stories. It's also very thrilling to see Ujimitsu move to another area because you never really know who she's going to meet and thus what type of story will be told. But yeah, this is just another really good manga and I'm so excited to see what it has in store for us next. Also, with the synopsis I've given, I think it would still be very enjoyable for anyone to look at the first chapter because it's not very text heavy. So I would highly recommend doing that. It's freely available on the Hata website, so I'll leave a link to that in the description box. Now, moving on to the next manga, I read a sample of Koisuru Succubus-chan, which is a romance comedy shoujo manga by Misaki Natsumi. The title translates to "The succubus is in love with being in love." The manga, evidently, is about a succubus called Albert Ui, but she currently goes by Mamura Ui, with her last name being written with the kanji for demon and village. So a couple of years ago, Mamura found some romance shoujo manga from the human world in her mother's bedroom, and she just fell completely in love with them. They even inspired her to study really hard so that she would get the opportunity to go on exchange as a high school student in the human world in order to have a similar experience as all of the manga main characters of the shoujo manga. The reason as to why she can't have something like this in the succubus land or wherever she's from is because succubi have the ability to make someone of the opposite sex go into heat merely by touching them. And so romance isn't really a thing there because they just live life having sex with whoever they like. Now, I was rather skeptical at the start of this manga because it's about a succubus. That doesn't usually forebode much good in manga. But this one was actually surprisingly enjoyable and I actually really was caught off guard. At the start of the manga, Mamurai is in class as everyone is introducing themselves. And then it's the turn of this dude called Hayakawa Tsukasa, who everyone thinks is just super hot. And so when it's his turn to introduce himself, he says something like, "Hey, I'm from middle school number 4, and my objective in high school is cute girls. I want like 2, maybe 3 girls. So, ladies, if you're feeling really lonely, please DM me." Okay, he didn't do that, but it did feel as gross as that. But yeah, I was dead ass in total shock reading this because it was so out of left field. What's more is that even Mamoru is shook by this revelation. Also, rather quickly, Mamoru finds that having her shoujo dream come true is going to be a lot harder than she had initially expected. She forgot about one fatal flaw, and that is that it's kind of hard getting close to someone and starting a romance when you can't let them touch you even by mistake. And Mamoru finds this out the hard way when she bumps into a couple of people when exiting the classroom and proceeds to get pursued by a trio of now horny judo schoolboys. And as Mamoru tries to make her escape, she bumps into Tsukasa, who miraculously resists the urge to kiss her, which freaks her out because her touch is something that one normally would not be able to resist. And so that's how far I got with this manga. I thought this was a pretty funny manga, mainly because of Mamoru's behavior and expressions. She's just a really funny and reactive character. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get the full volume during the next sale on Bookwalker, not sponsored, and if I turn out to like it, I'll get the second one as well. Now, another shoujo manga I recently read was the debut manga of Kani Matsuya called Ai no Campanella. This also has an English title, which is My Beloved Campanella. It's a fantasy manga that has been running in Asuka since July of last year, and surprisingly, not a lot of information is available about this one. Asuka, when introducing it back in July, said that it was a story set in England about 3 special forms of love, with the first chapter introducing the character of Oliver, an orphan who gets bullied at school, and Eva, his guardian. So as you can see, that doesn't really say all that much about the story, but I was really intrigued by the debut page, so I figured I should give this one a shot. And after having read all of the 5 chapters that are currently out, I have no idea where this manga is heading towards. So the story is indeed about Oliver, who goes to a Christian boarding school in England. Oliver views Eva as his guardian angel, as she has been there for him for such a long time, taking care of him. Then in the manga, at school one day, Oliver gets beat up by a bunch of kids, after which Eva takes him back home to recover. They end up sleeping in the same bed, which is when Oliver confesses his love to her, saying that he'll study really hard and become a very good man in the future, so that eventually the 2 of them can become a family. And Eva agrees to this. So, I'm thinking, she's probably just trying to not upset him. But oh no. No. She's all in. She's super excited, ecstatic. Like, at some point, she starts dancing on her own in her room, talking about how she's been watching him for so long, and now she's wondering if she can touch him more now. Ooh. It's so bad. Also, at another point in time, she starts looking at his pictures that are on the wall, like from when he was younger, and she starts to take off her top, which reveals this very large scar that runs from her chest all the way down to her belly button. Yeah, I don't know, her behavior is really freaking creepy. She's also, of course, very possessive of Oliver. She's aware of who his friends are, and she seems to be even capable of getting Oliver hurt in order for him to return home so that they can spend more time together. But yeah, aside from all of that weirdness, the manga seems to have something to do with angels and demons, and I personally think that Eva is just a demon, so who knows, maybe that's why she's been preying on Oliver and she has some ulterior motive. I definitely think that she has that in the first case. I don't know, I'm just thoroughly confused. It's such a weird little manga. I tried looking for other people who had an opinion on it, but found absolutely nothing. If you search for the manga's name on Twitter, there are only 2 tweets that will show up, and one of them is from Asuka explaining the synopsis. So yeah, I just don't really know what's going on here. I think I'm just going to wait until a complete volume gets released and see if at that time there are people who actually have something to say about it. In any case, it's definitely not a manga that I will be following closely. But yeah, moving on to the next topic. If everything goes well, I should have started posting on my main channel this week. I made a video about manga that is getting released this month that I'm really looking forward to, and next week my Harta video is finally going to come out. I'm really looking forward to that because I spent a ton of time doing research as well as reading a bunch of manga. Since coming back to YouTube, I've been trying to be a bit more structured when it comes to content creation. What I used to do was find an interesting topic that I would want to talk about and then start working on it until I found something else cool and would drop that first project and would then start working on that. I was honestly very shocked coming back and finding all of the old drafts that I had from abandoned projects. So much so that I was surprised to have managed to even get a single video out because there were like 50 or 60 drafts in there. But yeah, now I'm really trying to be more structured in the sense that I now try to plan things out a little better. And that's actually how I managed to get through the Harta video, because I don't think I would have been able to do it without like a structured plan. But Yeah, that also means that I have already picked out the things that I would like to talk about coming month. Aside from, my regular Mochi Doki Mochi episodes, I would love to do 2 manga review or analysis videos. The first one I had already talked about maybe 2 weeks ago. That will be about Jean Bride. I've already been working on that one. And the second one is Honnou Switch by Kujira. This is a josei romance manga I've had my eyes on since forever, and it's about time that I just go ahead and make a video about it. So the story is about a woman by the name of Koyori who, after having been dumped by her boyfriend, drunkenly hooks up with her childhood friend Hijiri. And now, after Hijiri having told Koyori that he loves her, she finds herself in a tough position trying to figure out what this possible new development could mean for their friendship, as well as the additional issue of her ex wanting her back. This is actually the type of manga that I'm always searching for, adult romance manga with a strong storyline, and that's why I really don't understand why it has been taking me so long to pick this one up. The manga, with a total of 9 volumes, is now complete, and I saw that Kujira already started a new manga in Comic Tint, which is the same magazine in which Honnou Switch was published. So yes, I have procrastinated long enough with this one. Besides that, Comic Tint did a huge sale where they were selling their older volumes for a couple of cents a piece, which is something that I try to see as a sign. So I bought the remaining magazines that I needed in order to have the entire story. Now, the last thing I want to say about Kujira is that I really want to read their new manga as well, that just started. It's called Hug Kiss Hug, and it's a spin-off from Honnou Switch, so I can't morally read this one without having finished the first one. But yeah, I also just want to show you the illustrations that Kujira made for the first 2 chapters. They're so pretty. I mean, I need to read this right now. But yeah, I just need to... this is what happens when I get too, into manga, that I'm like, oh, I need to read this, but this one as well, but this one's amazing too. And my mind just starts spinning, so I just need to... relax. I'll get to the manga after I read Honnou Switch. That's all I have to do. 9 volumes. It's not a problem. So I will keep you updated next episode. I'll tell you how many volumes I've gone through. So in that way, I'm kind of putting my... I don't know if this is a Dutch saying, but put my foot through the door or something. Anyways, yes, I will update you the next episode. Hey, Editing Seiji here, Dutch 101 class this time. The saying I was trying to use was having a stick behind the door, which means being threatened in order to get something done. But yeah, anyways, I think that I'm mostly just going to be doing manga review / analysis videos on the main channel. I do have a lot of genre introduction and history videos with regards to shoujo manga mostly that I would love to do. However, I don't think I'll have enough time before I go to Japan to work on those, so I'm planning on doing that afterwards. Also, I just think it's better anyways, because if everything goes well and I study enough in Japan, I'll be able to read through the source material a lot faster than I'm doing right now. So yeah, that's kind of I guess what my main channel is going to look like in terms of manga for the rest of this year. First, a couple of analysis and review videos, and then more general genre history videos. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about with regards to manga is a tiny update on the vintage manga situation. I am happy to announce that I have safely secured the targets, and they are now lying on my desk waiting to be read. And so stay tuned for them to make an actual appearance on this podcast. As for the anime 2023 season, I'm still waiting on that Junji Ito anime to drop, but in the meantime, I tried watching the first episode of that anime I spoke about last episode, The Ice Guy and His Cool Female Colleague, and it was really good. So in the first episode, we're introduced to Fuyutsuki, who is on her way to her first day at her new job. On her way there, she meets Himuro, who seems to be frozen at his feet, unable to move. He tells her that he's the descendant of a yokai known as the Snow Woman, and since this is his first day at his new job, he's really nervous, which caused him to freeze in place. This is when Fuyutsuki starts to help him by throwing her tea on the ice, but it doesn't work. So instead, she offers him a snack and some tea, and whilst they're enjoying each other's company, the ice starts to melt. The two then part ways, and as they're walking to work, they think about what an amazing person they just met. And that was the moment that I was hooked. Both characters are so sweet and gentle, it's really not hard to like either of them. So of course it turns out that they work at the same company, in the same department, with their desks next to each other. And so in the first episode, we get to see how both of them are doing all these tiny things to make life easier for the other, or just try and make them a little more happy. And it's just so cute. It's so cute. Himuro is such a softie. He likes things such as flowers and cats, but he can't touch them because the happiness that he gets from doing that causes snowstorms and the flowers to freeze. And so you get to see how Fuyutsuki tries her best to find alternatives for him so that he can still enjoy the things that he likes. And like I said, Himuro tries to do the same thing. For instance, he traveled throughout the city to find this exclusive type of chocolate pudding for her to eat, and it's just also incredibly lovely. There's just something really relaxing about watching two people fall in love without huge drama. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my mess, but sometimes, you just want to lay back and just enjoy seeing people in love. I actually watched this sitting at my desk with a massage pillow on my neck, and the bright spring visuals of the anime combined with the relaxing soundtrack made this such a nice experience. I actually felt my eyes stinging a bit, not because this first episode was extraordinarily good or anything like that, but it's just that sometimes I get a bit emotional when I'm vibing with really wholesome content. In any case, I would love to see the rest of this anime, but I'll probably only mention it here after I've seen a good couple more episodes. And so with that, we move on to the next segment of the podcast, Mochi Doki Mochi questions. If you have a question for me, want to know if I've read something, want to receive a tailored recommendation or some advice, whatever it is, you can leave your comment behind in the comment section below, and I will try to answer it in any of the future episodes of this podcast. So the first question of this week is from Raquel, and it says, I'm just curious, but have you read the new series of Pink Harmony, Pichi Pichi Pitch Aqua? And if you have read it, what do you think about it? So I haven't read this one, but before I started recording this episode, I looked up the manga and thought it would be nice to share with everyone on the podcast. So Pichi Pichi Pitch Aqua is actually the sequel of the shoujo manga Pichi Pichi Pitch. The first one centers around Nanami Lucia, who is a pink pearl mermaid princess. Apparently Lucia came to the human world undercover looking for something in order to save the seven seas. Hey, editing Seiji here again. So in the video I didn't really do a great job at explaining the manga, but essentially Lucia has to find a boy by the name of Kaito, who she saved from a tsunami wave 7 years ago and fell in love with, as she gave him her pink pearl, which she now needs in order to save the seven seas. The sequel of this manga follows Nanami Rukyo, who is Lucia's daughter. It's soon going to be her 17th birthday, and at the moment, Kurosuna, her classmate, who is a total hottie but has like the worst personality, is on her mind. However, the only thing he's interested in is the Densetsu no Ningyo, the so-called legendary mermaid. Then on her birthday, Lucia tells her that she's the daughter of a mermaid, and that's basically everything the synopsis says. Yeah, the story sounds really interesting, so I have put it on my checklist. So thank you so much for your question. Now, today is a special episode because I've actually received enough questions now that I can do an episode. So the second question for today comes from Lily, and this one says, is there a character who has gone through a redemption arc of some sort that you think to yourself, yeah, no, frick you. Someone who did bad or evil things, who's redeemed themselves, and while some people may have forgiven them, you on the other hand have not. So I actually took some time to think long and hard over this one because I haven't really seen this type of thing, like the redemption arc really prominently, at the very least, pop up in any of the manga and anime that's in my recent memory. However, I do remember this one anime that I tried out quite some time ago called Koi to yobu ni wa kimochi warui. The English title was It's Too Sick to Call This Love. The story is about this girl in high school called Ichika who at the station one morning manages to save this business guy from falling from a flight of stairs and, breaking his neck or something. He falls in love with her, but what I remember was that they didn't actually exchange any information. Then after school, Ichika goes to stay over at one of her friends' place, and lo and behold, it turns out that the business guy is actually like the 30-year-old something or like 28-year-old brother of Ichika's friend. And so when he walks in, he confesses his love to Ichika, which she instantly rejects. Basically, she's like, ugh, you're gross. But he doesn't give up. No, he doesn't. He actually goes to quite petty extremes to make her fall in love with him, like acting hostile to this male classmate of Ichika who seems to like her as well. In my opinion, this was just a total mess. I dropped it after 2 episodes or so, but I managed to find the last chapter of the manga for free on like this manga magazine website. And the story basically ends with her being like, will you wait for me until I'm an adult so that we can be together? And honestly, I don't know what type of redemption arc he must have gone through in order for Ichika to like him. But yeah, this just made me cringe a lot. I'm personally not a huge fan of age gap romance stories where it's like a 16 or 15-year-old being pursued by a seasoned adult. I get that it's fiction and all. My thing is that I don't find it appealing for an adult to be interested in a child, especially if the adult is portrayed as very successful and attractive, with them showing absolutely no interest in any of the fellow adults that are actually interested in them. And it just makes me think like, why is it that you don't even care to look at any adult, yet you're obsessed with a child? And framing that as something romantic is what confuses me, and so I never end up getting invested in the romance of those type of manga. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So this marks the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, a special shout out to my supporters over on Patreon and Ko-fi. Please do take care of yourself, and I hope to see you soon in the next episode. Cheers!